Meanwhile, the White House today unveiled a new national framework for how it wants Congress to address concerns about artificial intelligence. Now, it outlines 6 principles: protecting children, preventing electricity costs from surging, respecting intellectual property rights, preventing censorship, enabling innovation, and educating Americans on the use of the technology. So let's bring in Jacob Ward, who is a technology journalist and host of the Rip Current podcast. Jacob, great to see you. Let's start with that first one, and it's important. Do you think that this goes far enough to protect kids?
Well, I really appreciate you having me on. It is a important thing to protect kids, right? We know already that these large language models are in many cases being used by children as either a source of solace or counsel, or in some cases are even replacing friendship and even romantic experiences. And so there needs to, of course, be regulation around that. But the thing I would just say here is that there are many state laws already in effect that are trying to accomplish that same thing. If anything, what this reads to me as is a political effort on the part of the White House to try and win over a bipartisan coalition in Congress by putting harm to kids as a thing that it addresses here. But, fundamentally, I would say the headline of this piece of legislation, sort of recommendation from the White House, is really that it's a wish list on the part of the AI industry. They are getting exactly what they wanted from Santa here in the form of these recommendations.
So how does this new framework impact state laws concerning AI? Because every state is different.
Well, this is the thing, right, is that we have in this country no federal regulations when it comes to AI. We don't even have federal regulations when it comes to social media at this point. We're almost 20 years into the social media revolution. There's no data privacy laws at the federal level. There's no data transparency laws. And so states have been acting on their own to try to pass legislation that would protect people against the kind of effects that we're already seeing. Things like algorithmic discrimination. When an AI decides whether you get a job, are they, evaluating you on your merit, or are they evaluating you on the way your background shows up in the statistics? There are laws, for instance, in places like Colorado that prohibit that. And, places like New York State require employers to tell you when they are using AI to replace you. These are, big and powerful things that state laws have put into place. What this is doing, and this is why I think this is sort of an industry wish list, is wiping all of that out, essentially saying to Congress, you should preempt all state law. And this is an argument that these AI tech companies have been making forever, is that we can't be dealing with 50 different state laws. But what this doesn't do is put any kind of teeth into a real federal law. It just lowers the bar. I mean, literally, in the language of this framework, this is supposed to be a minimally burdensome regime. It doesn't hold AI companies to account for misuse of their product. It doesn't prohibit discrimination when AI makes a decision about who gets a job or who gets a loan or who gets bail. None of that is part of the federal framework that they're suggesting here. And instead, they're just doing away with state law. So people I've been speaking to really call it, a deregulation of the AI industry even before there is any regulation here.
This is regulation written to favor, it sounds like, in your opinion, favoring the tech companies over the framework that it says it's trying to protect then.
That's absolutely right. I mean, you really don't have to look much further than David Sachs, the AI czar, who was brought from Silicon Valley by the White House in to be the head of this stuff. And after the December executive order that President Trump signed trying to wipe out state law, at that time, David Sachs has plowed ahead and put this thing together. He, is, according to the New York Times, currently invested in several hundred companies in the AI field. And so this is very much a wish list of folks like him who are still very much in that world. And it's, as a result, no coincidence here that 36 states' attorneys general across the political spectrum have opposed this framework, saying it preempts their work at a time of incredible sensitivity. And when you have a bipartisan coalition of folks like that pushing back against something like that, I think it really says something about the national moment we're in here.
And I'm curious too, Jacob, because AI is so sophisticated and it looks like it's evolving really by the minute, by the week. Is there any way a law could even keep up with how sophisticated AI is?
Well, I will say the state laws have been really trying to do that. I've been quite impressed, by the efforts of state lawmakers to try to get ahead of things like, in Illinois, you're not allowed to create a piece of AI that impersonates a therapist. That's a very sophisticated and futuristic perspective on the use of this stuff. And it really responds to the scientific evidence we have that that can do real harm to people. And so, the state law has always been the laboratory of democracy, right, is the classic phrase. And so in this case, to see the White House trying to wipe that out in advance of there being really any kind of federal regulation that protects people against these clear consumer harms, that's pretty tough to swallow.
And Jacob, I want to get your thoughts on an AI scandal that's rocking the book industry. Hachette, the book group, says it's canceling the U.S. publication of the horror novel Shy Girl over allegations that the author heavily used artificial intelligence to write it. When you read that headline, what did you think?
Well, I mean, I should say, full disclosure, Hachette is also my publisher on the book I wrote, The Loop. And so, I'm a little biased here. I will say, on the one hand, you look at it and you think, well, who isn't using AI to help them write stuff right now? On the other hand, Hachette is one of many, many publishers whose authors engaged in a big lawsuit against Anthropic, for instance, that led to a $1.5 billion settlement for, what they essentially said was the theft of their books. And so I think in Hachette's position, they look at this and they say, we don't want to be part of the vacuuming up of human creativity into this megalith AI industry. And so I think they're probably drawing a bright red line here for philosophical reasons, even though you and I know that day to day, so many of us are using AI to help us with our jobs. And so I think they're probably one of the last holdouts, the book industry, against this tide that we're all experiencing.
Yeah, it's interesting. And they actually had to use, sounds like, AI detecting tools to find the AI. So everybody's using it for something.
That's right. Absolutely true. And I would point out, in a few years, I'm not sure you would be able to use that kind of detector and even figure this out. It's an open question whether in a few years anyone's going to have the attention span to even sit down and write a book, honestly.
Wow, that's a sad thought. Jacob Ward, thank you so much. Always great to see you.